Hello, everybody, and welcome to All Things Rex. It's another Thursday, and I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm here, and I've got a fabulous guest, Mr. Alec Stern. He's an entrepreneur, a speaker, a mentor, and investor. He's become known as America's startup success expert for performing hundreds of keynote speeches worldwide, and his popular sessions at top conferences are think about. He's been a co-founder or founding team member of 8 startups with 5 exits, 2 IPOs, and 3 acquisitions. And as a primary member of Constant Contact's founding team, Alex was one of the original 3 who started the company in an attic. In an attic. Alec was with the company for 18 years, from startup to IPO to a $1.1 billion acquisition. And recently, Alec was selected to the Influence 100 Authority list by Influence magazine and was recognized as the world authority for entrepreneurship by the credible source. So, without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Mr. Alec Stern. What a wonderful pleasure it is to have him with us today. And here we are.
Hey there. How
Hi,
are you?
I'm good. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. That's usually the part where I pull out drumsticks and do the drum roll for you.
Well, I would love to have you do that. I will, and I hope we get to talk about that because I
Yeah.
don't know how many people know that you are a drummer and you sit in with some hefty named people.
Yeah, we could certainly share that as one of the backstory examples, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it's fantastic. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's just start right out. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just you know, coming off a real big. I had a birthday, so I had a big weekend. Easter, we had the Boston Marathon, and riding on a high of a lot of fun experiences. So,
Wow. Well, happy birthday
thank
belatedly,
you.
and post holiday weekend. But thank you for being here. And I know that people, you have such an impressive list of accomplishments that people, they just go, "How did he do it? What did he do? What do I need to know in order to be able to do something like he did?" So, if you don't mind starting off right out of the gate with that kind of question, um, it's kind of broad, and we can narrow it as we go along. But I'd really love to hear how do you do it? How does it happen that you're responsible for so many startups and all these profitable exits and acquisitions?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I guess the first thing I'll say is that the old African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go with others or together. So I live by that. I honestly live by that, and I really hat tip anyone who's a solopreneur and doing it on their own. I personally have always teamed up and brought others into the fold to do that with me, and it's no different with all of the companies that I've been involved with and having success. So it's never an I story; it's always a we story, because I'm an innovator. I'm an idea person, and oftentimes can have the visualize and have the vision of bringing something to market that I believe would be successful to the kind of the focus of the target market. But it's always bringing in others to sort of round out the skill set, and at the same time not bring people in that are completely aligned with everything I'm doing, right? So we don't need all of us, with the rally cry, all doing the same thing. It's honestly filling in, I guess, areas with so we stay in our lane. You stay in your lane and you focus on what you're good at, and bring someone else who's in another lane. So the 1 and 1 equals 3 as you bring on others.
Wow, well, that's a great answer. You know, I love the fact that you talk about we, because there are people who have teams, but you never get to hear about their team. You only get to hear about the front person. Like the lead singer in a band sometimes gets all the notoriety, and then everybody else just kind of falls by the wayside. What makes a successful collaboration for you? What is it that you look for in putting together a team of people?
Yeah. So that even from the onset of starting a company, you start to establish what's the core values of the business, right? So there's going to be internal ones and there are going to be external ones. So, for example, one that has always been in the mix externally is delight the customer, right? So one of the first things has to really be customer centric and figure out things to delight the customer. So, yeah, on the internal ones, you could say this, since we're live, I'll say it in a different way than most people would refer to it. But don't hire any jerks, right? So, people can use other words for that.
Sure.
And have a no jerk policy. So another one would be, that everyone leaves the egos at the door, that you be title agnostic. So like, doesn't matter what your title is. And you need to, honestly let those titles go, because someone may come in and take your title. Someone might come over you, next to you, or below you. Like, oftentimes people come in and like, oh, I want this title and I only want to report to you directly and have no one in between us. And I'm like, well, I might not be in this position. We may bring someone else in, where I'm going to let my title go because someone else is gonna come in and take that over. And that's the part of the culture of really what does it take to succeed? What's it going to take for this thing to fly? And sometimes it's bringing in, you might be bringing in investment, and that they may have some adult supervision that they want to have in the mix, or bring in a leader that they've worked with before who's been there and done it and had success. And so there are those, sort of all those things that come into play. So you'll have your core values, and then you start to set your culture, to open door policy and making sure everyone's working on stuff that's frictionless. So you're not creating things that are going to cause any friction for anyone, especially the customer. And if you're working on something and you don't see it's adding value, raise your hand. Everyone has a voice. So the voice of the employee, the voice of the customer, the voice of your partners, all of those voices matter. And everyone should have an equal voice. Doesn't matter what people's titles are. It's all open door policy. Raise your hand if you're working on something that you think is going to cause some friction, or you have a deadline and you're afraid to make that deadline. You're going to maybe cut corners, or maybe not have the best user experience of something, whether it's a product or service. Raise your hand, right? And so for me and for any of the businesses that I've been involved with where we've had our greatest success, those are just a few of the examples of the things that come into play very early. Your culture gets set when there's one person, 2, 3, 5, and then we'll sort of continue. And there are many challenges that will kind of make it difficult for that culture to be maintained, especially if you hit a rapid growth cycle where someone comes in and an individual contributor one day, and within weeks there's a reporting to them, and within months, they're a boss of a bigger group, and and assimilating that culture through to folks at every level can sometimes be challenged. And so it's really making sure that that's set, and everyone that comes into the business, and that's going to be working with you in one capacity or another, has the mindset and is aligned. I'll give you just one quick story on that. So I've done a lot of things working with small businesses on Main Street. You walk on Main Street anywhere in the world, that was the target market. And so, I interviewed the majority of the folks in a few of those companies, where I'd say, listen, I have no say on whether you get this job or not. I'm just really here to just, get to know you and make sure you feel that there's a fit. You get a chance to meet, a founder or co-founder, ask any questions you have. And so I'll just, kind of get comfortable in a conversation. I'll say, well, when you're going to go visit a friend for their birthday over the weekend, and you're going to buy them a small gift, where do you typically do your shopping? And they're like, online. I said, you ever go onto Main Street in your neighborhood and go buy something from the local stores? And like, no, I don't have time for that. I just go online. Now, if we're supporting those small businesses on Main Street, that could be a red flag. Somebody doesn't even want to support them themselves, now how are they going to then, be working in a company where that's the target market? So, I would look at that as a red flag if somebody isn't passionate about helping their local businesses, as one example.
Well, that's great. That's a fantastic example. And Alec, I guess I'd want to follow up on that in terms of when you're gathering people, or you're also an investor and you're wanting to, invest in a project, or conversely, if you're not using your own money or company's money, you're getting investments from the outside. How do you given everything you just said, what do you use to oversee that it's a fit? I mean, you say the values align, but how are you? There's so many moving parts, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. How do you coordinate all that so that it doesn't get unwieldy, and so that you fit with people and they fit with you, and you know that you're going to make this journey together?
Yeah. So, that's a great question, and I know there are a lot. And we've spent a lot of time on platforms like Clubhouse together, and I've learned a lot from a lot of the there's certainly a lot of formalized ways of figuring all those things out, but there's also the informal, right, where you have a gut feel, or you meet somebody and you could feel their passion and their energy around your idea or the target market, or what you're bringing to market to help that target market. And so sometimes it's, it's truly the gut feel of somebody in the fit, around that. So it's a culture fit, but it's also, just understanding, is there a good blend? You're not going to be, you don't have to formalize a best friend relationship with everyone that joins the company, but there has to be some camaraderie around some aspect of something that you're doing. And then there may be personal ties as well, and so as you're talking and you learn, from them, things they're passionate about. So you might, both be into sailing, or you might be into music, or play instruments, or, there's always that bond in a conversation where you get to sort of know the other side of someone besides just what they're going to do all day. So, again, back to sort of the openness of the culture and the willingness to bring on folks that are going to help bring that mission forward. And then, the other thing is that every time you hire somebody, the old kind of adage of, hire your replacement. I've always been of the school that bring someone in that could take your job and do your job as good or better than you. Because then you will be opened up to moving up or taking on more responsibility. It's not a threat. It's not like, oh, they're gonna replace me and let me go. When people don't hire their replacement, that's out of fear or concern, as opposed to truly what could help accelerate the business and its success by getting more good people kind of coming into the mix. So it's there's a lot of different ways to sort of assess the fit there, but just through conversation and spending time and really seeing someone who's, if they're so passionate about your target market, or so passionate about what you're working on, that they're like, I really want to contribute in on this, because I think it's definitely it's got a potential for great success. Then that looks like a pretty good hire to me.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of great answers to that. And one of the things that my dogs are just,
as long as your dog's agreeing with me, I'm good.
They're agreeing with you. Hang on one second while the question that I wanted to ask is, Bailey, be quiet. Come here. Is you talked about having a gut feeling, and some people use the word intuition, and some people want to steer away from that, but having that gut feeling, and also having something that's in common besides just the business. I think a lot of people get so entrenched, so focused, so narrowed, on a particular path, that they forget that there's other things that can be really important when you are pursuing a goal, and or when you're working with other people. And it's like I said to somebody one time, I want people I want to be able to have a backyard barbecue with too. I don't want to just be, doing the business all the time. So it sounds very cool. I mean, it sounds very open. I know a lot of people work, 80 hours a week, and they struggle, and they get kind of stressed out with their partners or their employees, and you have this kind of permissive structure that allows you to incorporate all sorts of really important aspects that I think a lot of people don't pay attention to because they're too busy, wondering, figuring out the financial thing or the branding thing or the marketing thing, that they forget the people side of it.
Exactly. And I think, people will always say, is it someone you'd want to go have lunch with, or go to, or have them, have a barbecue with them. And that's a great example where, you're going to spend more time with these people, especially if you're starting a business. You're not working, 9 to 5, you're going to be spending a lot of time, nights, weekends, just an incredible amount of time together. For me, one of the overarching things that in life that I need to have in the mix is humor. And so, finding humor in situations, even in the worst of situations, like, what do you mean we can't make payroll this week? And like, laugh at it, because the endorphins of humor gets you kind of energized, and it brings you to another level. And then, a clear head to kind of figure out how we're going to solve whatever that issue is. And the obstacles are very, very prevalent in businesses, especially in the earlier days. But you're going to be spending a lot of time with these folks, and you're going to be kind of growing up together. And if that relationship is set, to a deeper level than just someone coming in, doing their job and going home, then they're going to be the ones who are going to want to stay that extra time to just figure out that solving something that hits that needs to be fixed or whatever, or you got to strategize on something and you got to have a lot of think time, and let's just get on a whiteboard and just work through it. They're willing to just drop everything and do that, because everyone feels like they're responsible, and they're a key contributor into that company. And of course, in all instances, you'll give them some ownership or equity or options to so that they can feel like an owner, and treat it as though it's their company. And then, of course, those earlier days, there might be founders, co-founders, but then you sort of look at a bigger, wider net of folks that are on the founding team. Anyone who's come in real early and you pre-launch, and they're kind of part of that founding team, so they feel that sense of kind of ownership on their own as well.
Wow, that is really very cool. Well, I want to first mention the notion of humor, because I've long maintained, as I'm sure you do, that if somebody can laugh at it, you're free of it. And somebody can have a lot of problems, and you can take them out to a comedy club, and at least for an hour or a couple of hours, they laugh, they forget their problems, if they're willing to do that, and then and as long as somebody can laugh at something, they have the opportunity. They may not take it, but they have the opportunity to transform and to do something different, as opposed to feeling bummed out or whatever it is that they might feel. So it opens up what you said with the endorphins. That's I think very key to successfully working with other people, and true about many relationships, or most relationships. If we can have fun together and laugh together, we're doing pretty good.
That's right.
Wow, there's so much. I know that so many people, they're commenting in the chat room, and some of the comments are making it up onto the screen here. Great value, and people are very pleased with what you've been sharing. I want to encourage people who are watching live to be aware that they can leave comments or ask questions, and assuming that we see it, you'll be happy to answer the question. Wow. So let me backtrack a little bit. Constant Contact is 3 people in an attic kind of thing. How did you when you look at the different kinds of companies that you're currently involved with, or have been involved with, whether it's SaaS technology or Web 3.0, metaverse, crypto, medical devices, or cannabis, what in Constant Contact, what was the idea behind Constant Contact that tripped the trigger of these three people to what were you hoping to achieve? And it looked like you probably did achieve it, but
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so that's the one everyone knows. I mean, it became a top 10 known brand. Certainly in the U.S. and beyond. Brand name. So everyone knew Constant Contact, which was really, really amazing. And that's just a great testament to, what was created and how we impacted small businesses on Main Street. That wasn't my first foray into small business. I had two other companies prior. One went public and sold, and the other one was acquired, both helping small businesses in other ways. But Constant Contact, there were a lot of firsts and things with regard to it. It was one of the first two software as a service, SaaS as we know it today. It was one of the first two SaaS offerings ever. So we had an installed product when we started, and we were able to move it to something where you create once and share many, and it's rented, sort of paid, kind of the Netflix model or others like it, where you're paying for the software, rent it and paying for the software on a monthly basis or annual basis in some cases, but in our case, monthly. And so the original premise was, there were a lot of large companies that had agencies, and they had resources, and they had enterprise tools, but on Main Street, small businesses on Main Street didn't have anything. And so the original premise was, how do we level the playing field for those small businesses against those big competitors, and create something that all they had to worry about was what they wanted to say, who they wanted to say it to, and when they wanted to say it, right? And then everything else would be done for them. So templatize something, and no need to know, anything technical like HTML to create the graphics. Like, pick a template, change its colors, put in your branding, put in your messaging, hit send, and get all that tracking and reporting. And so, we set out to level that playing field for small business, and then which was our original premise. And the first offering was email marketing, which became the anchor offering. And there's today the company has many other sort of small business focused tools wrapped around email marketing. But that was the original premise, and it honestly was what we set out to do. We did and had success with, and again, it's not an I story, it's a we story. We had an amazing management team. We had 1,500 employees. We had over 8,000 partners on any given day, telling their customers, who are also our target customer, about Constant Contact, and just incredible board and mentors, and so customers, employees, everyone in the mix there, and the success was on the backs of everyone's involvement in that situation.
it is so impressive. I mean, it just really is impressive. Did you idea that you're solving a problem or innovation your company, or you were providing a service to these other small businesses?
Yeah, so we were solving or creating, I guess, a new industry with SaaS, but we were solving a problem for small businesses to let them be competitive against those big competitors, because the small business on Main Street, a lot of times they're like the general store owner. They're wearing all the hats, and they've got to do everything, and they weren't going to go pay a crazy amount for an enterprise tool, or hire a bunch of resources, or work with an agency to help drive some of that marketing. And, so we're going to create something that was easy to use, self-service, very inexpensive, and just really handle, any of the under the covers or behind the curtain, handle a lot of the things on behalf of, the resources that would have been needed for those things. So, this is my own stat, but 85% of the time, someone who has an idea and bringing a product or service forward is something that already exists, where you're just going to execute on it better. There's a lot of industries out there that are asleep at the wheel, where this is how we've always done it, and we're going to keep doing it this way. And so So you see that about 80. I see that, and these again my stats. The Alec Stern research facility came
There
up
you
with that. But 85% of the time, it's something that already existed, and someone could come along and wake up that market and execute it better, and there's room for them to fit in. And 15% of the time, it's something that didn't exist. In the case of the digital marketing for small business didn't exist. So that's where you've got to create kind of the category, and in doing so and promoting and marketing the category, that has its own sort of challenges and expense and other things to do that. And then of course then it's the brand. And so we were the first one to do this. I think there's probably at one point maybe 80, 90 companies that were claiming to do what we did. But we executed on it better than others, and we're in the pole position of doing it first. So we're looking over our people, kind of nipping at our heels a bit, and there were some formidable competitors that had cropped up in the mix. But there was enough for everyone, honestly. If you looked at small businesses in North America, in all different from small business, B2B, B2C, nonprofit, associations, et cetera, member organizations, there was over 30 million of them, and so there was certainly more than enough, for a competitive landscape. And it was less about, I never like to be in a feature function benefit war, like we set ourselves apart to where we're differentiated by, doing something unique and different. So.
Wow, I really like that. I also think that it demonstrates, it shows the vision that you and your collaborators have. I mean, some people who are in small business or in corporate, but some people are in small business only want to solve their problem. So if I own laundromats, for example, I want to innovate, the laundry industry, and I don't think about innovating somebody else's business or what would be good for business, small businesses in general. Or I'm looking at some corporate entity and thinking, well, if this corporation went, what I mean. I mean, in other words, again, it's the ability to see opportunity where it exists, but it may not be readily noticed. And even as you said, I mean, maybe 85% of it is innovating something, but it's still. I mean, there are times when I'm talking to somebody, I go, I would never have thought to do that. It just would never have even entered my mind that was a need that somebody would have, or that was a possibility. How did you come to that? How did you find that out? How did you discover that? And that to me is the thing that, if you go back and you read Napoleon Hill and he talks about, the different kinds of industries that were available in that day, and go, here, do these. When I read them as a young guy, I went, yeah, but none of those interest me.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I think the first thing is that there's you believe you're onto something, right? But I think one of the biggest things is that I'm going to put this in quotes, stealth mode. A lot of people are in stealth mode. Like, I don't want to share the idea. I don't want anyone to take it. It's too early. We got to keep working on it. Eventually, we'll kind of get it out there, but not yet. And I've always been of the school that if I think there's an idea, like people ask me every day, if I had $1 for everyone who asks me, in a day, a week, a month, what do you think of my idea? My response is always, doesn't matter what I think. What does your target market think? And so you got to go early and often out to your target market. And so when you're having a conversation like that, you're going to go up to someone and lead with value, ask some questions, lead the witness, if you will. Like, so tell me, what is it that you have in your business that you like and wish you had more of? What's something you don't have that you wish you had? What's your vision of the business? Where do you see the business going in 3 years? And, are you on a path to get there with what you're doing today? And I will tell you, probably half of the people that I talk to, and I've spoken to over 1 million people in the last 18 months.
Wow.
And as I get a chance to ask that question, are you on a path to achieve that 3-year vision that you've set? Half reluctantly say no. So you either got to change your vision, or you got to, and the mission of what you do every day toward that vision, just, look honestly at what you're spending your time on every day and change that. So you're on a hamster wheel of the day-to-day of your business. Step off the hamster wheel. And so you want to work on your business, not in it, and look at it strategically and figure out, are we on a path to that success, or should we be making adjustments somewhere? But the biggest thing is that we don't go early and we don't go often enough to that target market, which you do out of the gate. And in every instance of the companies where we've had great success, we had an idea, we had a vision, we had a thought. I would create something to show somebody or talk through it with them. But as I was starting to mention, when you go to talk to someone, you're asking them those questions, they're going to tell you what's important to them. They're going to tell you that, I wish I had more customers. I wish I had more revenue. I wish I could stay top of mind with my existing customers, drive them back in. They're going to share some things. And then eventually in the conversation, they're going to say, so tell me, what are you working on? And that's when the door is open for you to tell them about what you're working on. But the key thing in all of this is listening intently to what they're saying, to look for those triggers and some real important nuggets of things that they'll share. If you take the word listen and you move the letters around, it spells silent. So you want to be silent and present and listen to them, so that when they then come back and say to you, what are you working on? You could say, well, if we could provide you a platform that's easy to do, self-service, that, very inexpensive, but could level that playing field against those big competitors you mentioned, but also drive, stay top of mind with your current customers, drive them back in, get additional revenue. Would that be something that would be important to you? And you could take advantage of that. So one is, it's something that they think can help them, right? So that's the first question. If they say, yeah, totally, this would help me. And the second important question is, do you see it as something you would pay for? And like, this is priceless. Of course I'd pay for it. Then you're onto something. So you could have a great idea, but I always ask people, are you an innovator? And most of them say no. Like 5% will say out of the gate, yes, I'm an innovator. And I would say that, and now I've proven that several times myself, so I can say it. But a lot of people say, yeah, I'm an innovator, 5%. The rest don't. And I'll say, but do you have, on any day, week, or month, do you experience a product or service that you're like, God, that could have been done better? And they're like, yeah, today I was, I went to a business, and they didn't really execute it the way I thought they would have on delivering a service or the product or whatever. And so, or how the product worked, the features, et cetera. And so, we all have those ideas, and we see opportunities. The only difference is, if you actually act on that idea, you tell someone else and you noodle on it with someone, and they're like, I want to work on that with you. You're an innovator. You're taking action. So we all have the potential to be innovators, and all have the potential to bring ideas, to fruition. But it all starts with getting to your target market early to get their feedback, to validate that you're onto something, because you're going to get a lot of no's, and which is a whole nother conversation of how you address and handle that. But you're going to get a lot of no's, and what's going to keep you going is the fact that your target market has said, yeah, that's something that I could see would help me in my business, and I'd be willing to pay for it.
Wow, I love this. What a wonderful answer. And on top of it, it kind of came full circle. The idea you started off with, it's not an I business, it's a we business. It's about collaboration. And then the idea of going to your target market and asking them questions about their needs and what's important to them, and then whether they would pay money to it, or for it, is gold. I think a lot of people right here, they're like, wow, this is masterclass time. They can learn a lot, business savvy right here with you. Alec, we're gonna have to take a station identification here for the Tribune. I'm so pleased that the LA Tribune affords us this show and all things Rex worldwide, and that you're a guest on it. That we got a great behind the team staff with Shmiko Cole and her team, who do the production of the show. So I'm very grateful. We'll be back in about and then, but I'm having a fabulous time with you, Alec. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
Well, and we're back. Very cool. Love this. And when Thomas Edison is alleged to have invented the light bulb, well, whether he did or someone else did, the point is, once we had that bulb, it was argued that it took him a while to sell and convince people that they could give up their oil lamps and actually benefit from an electric bulb. So a lot of times when innovation comes about, the difficulty is selling it, convincing it or marketing it or getting the right, is there a way around that you found? I mean, one is it sounds like going to the people with the need, finding out what their need is, innovating or making the innovations for them, and then offering it back to them so that you don't have to convince a lot of people of something, but maybe you do. I know a lot of people don't even bother to close sales. They don't ask for a sale. Is there some suggestion or advice or expertise you'd share in this arena about getting it promoted or marketed? Or
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate this question. This is near and dear because this gets into some secret sauce stuff, which I love to talk about. So, yeah. So the meaty part of a conversation, but so one of the challenges, like for example, working with small businesses, which I've done several companies, and I've got a couple of new things now that are again centric to small businesses, but people will challenge you and say no one sells to small business. You can't go on Main Street door to door calling on them. You're going to need an army of salespeople or a crazy large marketing budget to get to them. And so, some of those points, are valid. They would say that the only ones are big companies like Intuit and ADP and others, could get to all those small businesses, but not this new startup, or this new idea and so on. And so, I always ask somebody, when in the earliest days of your business, like, what's your scale strategy? And oftentimes they're going to say, well, if I get $20 million in investment, I'll put it into marketing, or I'll hire 200 salespeople. Now, if your product has a price point that can warrant and justify, that army of salespeople, or you've really figured out kind of the secret sauce around your marketing to spend a $20 million budget. Because I've seen a lot of startups get lots of money and burn through that money, and then at the end of the day question why they don't have a big customer base yet. Now, so there's a lot of sort of questions around those strategies, good strategies to put in place. But for me, the key strategy, and in the case of several of the businesses I was most successful with, and also what was that initial sort of 5-year strategy of Constant Contact, it's strictly around setting up channels, partnerships, strategic alliances, affiliates, referral partners, however you want to call them. So we initially went to these intermediaries and these partners, if you will, that had large bases of our target customer, that if we worked with them and through them, we would get access to that target market in spades. And then, of course, there's more to it in what you can provide, but you're doing something unique. So tell that unique story. What's the best practices around what you're doing? How is it differentiated from the way others are doing it? It's not a feature function war. It's what's different. And and then you work with them. And if you can provide that customer base of that partners with something that will help make them successful, then that partner, will want to promote you further to that base, because it's helping them look good. They brought you to the table to your target market, and they're the folks that are working with them. And of course, then you're helping them with their success, and you're also helping the partner. So it creates a win-win-win for you, the partner, and that customer. And so channels was always the answer, and the scale strategy. Because if you showed how initially you go out and get some number of your target market as customers. So you got to go out and get some number. I've heard I heard this morning from someone, when I get 1,000 customers, then I'm going to go out and start to build out a channel strategy. I'm like, 1,000 customers, like that's great. But, we did it with 4. So, I mean, you can go get your 1,000, but you just have to be able to show that some number of folks are having success with the offering, are willing to give you a testimonial. They've given you feedback, and you're weaving in their feedback into how you're enhancing the offering. And then it's directional. Like, if we have money and we work through these partnerships and eventually get the flywheel of the business going, because that takes a while. Like on a SaaS, software as a service application, or any business, it takes a while for the business flywheel to generate revenue. A partner channel, even more time needed to get that flywheel going. But if you think about it, everyone who's listening, whatever business you're in, the B2B, B2C, nonprofit, small business, large business, whatever it may be, there are at least 15 channel partner categories for you, minimum 15. So I challenge everyone to go, what are the 15 categories that I could work with? So there's complementary products and services. There's influencers, bloggers, and consultants that are talking about what you're talking to those target customers of yours, and they're a trusted resource that they listen to, and they could be talking about you to them. And association member organizations, everything we do, there's the association and member organization, local, regional, national, that are focused on thought leadership and education or networking. And so there's all kinds of target partners that you could work with to get to your target market. And as I mentioned, with Constant Contact, we were signing 300, 400, 500 a month, at a peak of that. And again, there's small local trusted resources like consultants and marketing agencies, small business consultants, PR firms, web developers, all kinds of folks that were working with small businesses, that here's another thing in their tool bag they could talk about, email marketing and other things like it. And then there's large ones that have big bases, Amex and all the credit card companies and some of the other complementary tools and services that had millions of small businesses. So you kind of have the range and everything in between. And so the strategy for most, which many can't answer that question when I ask, what's your scale strategy? In the earliest days, oftentimes they haven't really thought that through. But channels usually is going to be somewhere in that mix. And in the case of several of the companies, we were 100% channels when we started, because that's how we could get to our target market without a big budget, without a lot of people, but work through those other folks, the one-to-many scenarios of partnerships.
Well, that's so brilliant, because I was going to say, there's a lot of small businesses where they don't have finances to do, a lot of marketing, or they haven't even addressed scaling yet, or, and you kind of answered all of that in one fell swoop by saying, there are these different avenues. For example, somebody can't move their software or one of their products, they might team up with a blogger or someone else in some way that form some form of alliance to get the word out. Is that kind of what you're saying? I mean,
yeah. So when you think about the relationship that a small business and if that's your target market, we'll start there. Small businesses target market, and then there are partners where those target market small businesses are hanging out, and then the relationship and the affinity and relationship that the small business has with that in their case, it could be a vendor, it could be, someone who's helping them, it could be someone that they go to for thought leadership, it could be someone that they go to for their, their learnings, or to network with other ones like them. And so depending on what those, organizations are, their relationship with the target market, will vary. And so goes, when they're promoting new products and services to that target market, your target market, which is their, their customers, or their members, if you will, that relationship, however strong will dictate, how quickly they would say, yeah, that sounds interesting. I definitely am interested to work with them, or have you do an intro, or yeah, sign me up. So there is you have to test your way into all the different partner categories and partners within the category. There's always an 80-20 rule, that 20% of the top ones make up 80% of all of that particular market. When it's in all cases, there's that roughly that 80-20 rule for how many partners in that space would get you to all those target customers. But there is an affinity and a relationship there. They do appreciate, that they're bringing them cool products and services, and you will once you have some success, and then you get a couple case studies with that partner, then they see their customers just gushing over how happy they are and thankful they are that they introduced, and how they're having success. That leads to all kinds of opportunity, especially if you have, if you package up your thought leadership and that, and your best practices, and you can present to that audience educationally how they can, succeed with what you're doing, then they want that kind of content all day long. So they'll have you come speak at their conferences, and they'll have you, be part of their blog and their podcast, and, in their magazines and on their website. And so they'll want to feature you in a lot of places because you're adding value.
Wow. Very, very cool. Again, total masterclass here, and I really appreciate that. And again, we're getting great comments, and I got to note that some of the comments aren't being able to get posted definitions. There's some technical stuff that's going on, but I'm sure I'm enjoying this. I know that in the replay, people will enjoy it as well. And if you're watching this live or replay, go ahead and like it, and be sure to share it. And you can always leave comments, especially during the replay too, because that's important as well. But if you're taking value from this, be sure to share it with other people so that they can have the value too. And I know that I sure am, Alec. I really appreciate this. So let me switch gears just a little bit for us now, and talk about one of the other things that you're really interested in, and that it would be what you call urban innovation. And can you address what you're doing in that regard? And let's talk about some of these things that are close to you, dear to you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. When wherever we are, there's oftentimes there's areas that, kind of inner city areas and places where they don't necessarily have all the tools and resources at their fingertips that others may have. And so I was have been fortunate to sit on several task forces for the city of Boston and the state of Massachusetts to help with innovation and small business, and kind of connecting the dots there. And so we have an innovation district, it's which our seaport area has been dubbed the innovation district. And so everyone, some of the response has always been things like, well, we have an innovation district. If people want, help, they can go there. I'm like, it's like if you went to, to your university and you weren't active in anything in the university except, studying and living in a dorm or off campus. When you go back there, what are you going to do when you go back? You'll walk around, or you're going to go to one of your classrooms and be like, oh, this is where I took my economics class. That like if there's a sort of an affinity or some other tie-in, sure, you would go there. It's not like anyone's going to wander into this innovation district and start knocking on doors to say, hey, what do you do and how can you help me? So the bottom line is like, how do you move this I called it urban innovation, but how do you move some of the resources and those tools and the programming and accelerators and boot camps and, all the different, the co-working spaces, whatever it may be, into some of those areas to make things, available and easy, because oftentimes just traveling to somewhere else is not easy for someone. It might not be a train route or a bus route or, a taxi route or easily, you can get there, but it'll cost money. And so the key thing was like, how do you bring those tools, resources, and everything into the local community? And the first thing is we all are skilled in something. Everyone listening, we all have a skill in something. We've grown up with, whatever that is that we built a career around, or possibly even built businesses around. And anything that you are good at, there are local small businesses, and certainly ones in the urban areas that could use your help. There are kids, that are going up through the school system that make choices every day. Oftentimes their role models are not necessarily, providing them the best path or at least guidance. Sometimes broken families, there's all kinds of sort of issues that kick in. And so for me, I've been really passionate about starting as low as junior high, but realistically into high school and all the way into the local businesses that exist, and offering, help and working with, some of the inner city accelerators and those boot camps and some of the programming that gives access to folks to make, to help advance that business. But walking on Main Street in any town, those small businesses, they all could use our help. And we could be providing what we're good at, is oftentimes something they could use some help with. And I've seen it all too much, I guess. And I just, so I've just, that's a pay it forward and a give back for me to help those local businesses, and also work with kids to, have an ideation session or a brainstorm, or, where they'll come and, one side of the room are people with ideas, the other side of the room, people that can work on ideas. And then people present the ideas and go pick a team, and everyone, 300 kids, divide up amongst, 15 or 20 ideas. And then you do a session working with them to formalize the idea a bit more, and then pick someone on the team to present the idea at the end and vote on the ideas. And I've had many situations where I get to see the alumni ideas where they're, years later, they're still working on them. And in some cases it's led, kids to go on to finish high school, go on to go to college, or to build a business around their idea. And I think one of the other things we just, if you're in the startup mode, you often think about, okay, well, they've got to build the business plan. They got to go get funding. They got to build it up and have an exit, sell the company, go public. There are a lot of businesses, on Main Street all over the world that, are really just want to provide for their family, want to create a legacy and build a business that the kids could take over one day, have their sort of other goals, and those should be rewarded as much as any other business that, we would typically think of as a startup, if you will. And so we can all help them. And for me, I'm passionate about that. And I've rallied around some of those programs and been a speaker and a mentor, advisor to a lot of, as I said, in some cases, a couple of programs on the junior high side up to high school. And then of course to the small businesses and folks that have an idea, coming back to their community or are living in their community and have ideas of, something that can improve something, to the household, to the generational gap between, family to the community or their school or whatever it may be.
Wow. I mean, really, wow. A couple of things. One is, I'm going to ask a question. I want to tie it back to this, but, a lot of people, I mean, when I started business, I have a business and I either have it until I die. But I hadn't thought I'm going to create a business to sell it. And so that was one thing that, seems a lot of people suggest today, have an exit strategy planned, in other words, when you go into business help. So that's the first question I want to ask, but I want to tie it back to what you're doing here in urban innovation as well, is that a lot of people starting in business, what would be a recommendation, whether they're in an area that you're talking about or other areas, what might be the first couple of important things they should consider in a small business on Main Street?
Yeah, and you know, that some of it is truly walking down Main Street, and it's those businesses on either side, you know, that we're referring to, and in some cases it's also the metaphor for a startup, you know, or an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, or someone who has an idea and needs to get it going. Doesn't mean you need to have physical space, you know, today, you know, as we all think, and a lot of folks have abandoned, you know, as of late, have abandoned the physical space to go virtual or to do things more online, and at least that, or in some cases supplementing that into the mix, where before they were always like, well, I'm just going to wait till people walk in. You know, I'll unlock my door in the morning and I'll wait till they show up, or I'll market and drive them back through, you know, tools like Constant Contact and others. But the you know, the real thinking first and foremost, you know, I have an idea. I mean, I wish I had a couple of, I write it on a napkin. Usually it starts on a napkin, and then you know, I might move it over into, say, PowerPoint or something. I'm not technical, so you know, I'm buzzword compliant. I like to say I know all the buzzwords, but after a sentence or two into any of those technical buzzwords, I bring in the expert. And, I've hit my wall. But the key thing is that you know, just noodling on that idea, and then of course, as I mentioned, you go out and get you know, feedback early from your target market, and then noodle on that to see with others, and you might find some folks that come in the mix. You know, you're staying in your lane and what you're good at, and you bring some other people that could help you. If you're not technical, there's got to be someone on the team that's technical that can, you know, take the vision of that idea and then turn it into fruition to make it a product or a service or whatever it may be, or align yourself with the right mentors and folks that have been there and done it, that can provide feedback. And you know, always be pitching. You know, whatever it is that you have an idea on, you want to always be talking about it, because you'd be really surprised in a lot of instances where you're going to find a fit for something. And I'll give you just two examples. Riding an Uber, you know, one example was the Uber driver was doing it part-time, had just retired out of 30 years in an industry that happened to be, you know, a company that I was mentoring. And I said, well, they're looking for like a key strategic advisor, and it sounds like there might be a fit here. Would you be open to me connecting you in? And I did. And that gentleman became a very important advisor for them. And in the second instance, it was another industry with another Uber driver. Actually, just to be fair, it was a Lyft driver. So, you know, we don't distinguish, you know, we don't, you know, just rely on one these days. But it was a Lyft driver, and that Lyft driver ended up investing in another idea, you know, because that was an industry that they were in for years, and was just driving to get out of the house. And, you know, I love to hear those stories. Like, you know, I retired and my wife wanted me out of the house. So, you know, or whatever. So, but anyway, so they both were a good fit. So the bottom line is just getting out, sharing your idea, getting feedback, going to that target market. And that's going to fuel you to know you're onto something. I did touch on something about obstacles. You know, you're going to get a lot of obstacles, and you're going to get a lot of no's. You know, for me, my motto is a no means not now. So I never hear no. Someone says no to me, it just is not now. And I want to qualify, why did I get a no? You know, and so it could have been what I said, how I said it, when I said it, were they ready to receive it? You know, all kinds of things come into play for is it the right time? And I always qualify. I'd love to tell you about my idea. I could just give you a little snippet about it, but let me know if, you know, is this a good time to spend time on it? And they're like, yeah, I'm interested. So you get the green light to be able to share more. You know, so, you know, you're using these opportunities to, you know, to just get out and talk of your idea, and then get some validation of it, get some feedback, and then start to see how you can align with who you need to bring into the mix to help you, whether it be an advisor, a mentor, might be, you know, someone that you're going to hire in. It could be a contract person initially, or part-time, or someone, you know, you don't have to be hiring up a storm out of the gate, or if you have the money to do so, or then you can, and the need. But you might be starting smaller and just bringing folks in. With one company that we started, there was at the time, there were 4 of us, and we had 30 interns. So we satisfied it with, paying interns who could help us in a lot of areas, which is a little overwhelming. It's 1, 2, 3, 5 maybe, but 30, it was a little overwhelming. But you do whatever it takes. But I think once you get it out there and you start to get that feedback, as I said, a no means not now for me. I would cultivate those relationships and ask, do I have a green light to stay in touch with somebody, update them, inform them of what we're doing, and converting many of those no's into yeses later, after you've spent some time or you've advanced the idea a bit more or whatever it may be. So I don't hear the no's. And I think the sort of the key thing in all of this is just to be out there, really sharing these things and getting that feedback. Getting feedback, because feedback's a gift, good or bad, you want to get that feedback. And of course, then once you land a few folks that will be your early kind of users or customers, they're going to give you feedback. And the one thing I'd say on that is don't go to people people you've done business with before, people that, family. You want to go to strangers to get brutal, honest feedback. Right. And that's tough. It's easy to go to your family. Oh, we love you. You're going to be so successful. That feels good, but it's not going to help you advance the business. You got to go to those that you don't know. And then, with those no's, oftentimes it can be deflating. And that's why I say it's a not now and convert it, because you can get stuck from getting those no's, and then all of a sudden you want to take your bat and ball and go home, or an obstacle kicks in. You don't want to move forward. You come in, if you were like me, you write on the first line of a piece of paper the obstacle, put a little box next to it, and hope you checked it at the end of the day, and you don't, and it's still sitting there the next day, and it just seems to look like a bigger font, every time you look at it. And so sometimes that's when people take the bat and ball and go home, because they can't solve that obstacle. But you have to create the muscle memory to knock down the obstacle. And seek counsel from others that you're not the first one to experience this obstacle. Seek counsel from those that failed at knocking it down and why, those that knocked it down or broke it into smaller pieces, got some small wins to knock it down, because I can assure you the obstacle sitting behind it is bigger. So you get that muscle memory, and you knock that one down, and the next one's bigger, and you knock that one down. It doesn't get, it gets easier to knock them down, but they don't get smaller. They usually get bigger. And so you need that, because that's one of those things that in the early days that can get you stuck or want you to quit.
Wow. I want to be sensitive to your time. I mean, we could go a little long if you can go a little long.
I'm all yours.
Gosh,
as long as the dog approves, I'm good.
The dog loves you. The girls love you. They do. Well, I got a few questions. Well, one I want to ask, I want to follow up on this. I want to come back to the urban innovation, and I want to talk about drumming and other things too. But I want to ask you, because I started as a young actor in Hollywood, and one of the things that all actors say they hear no more than anything else, like all children here know a lot. And then so I took a temporary job. I mean, it was temporary because I quit it pretty quickly, but it was this high turnover industry of boiler rooms, of selling toner, back in the day, copier toner, where you cold call and go, you want to buy toner, and about the only training you get is to say, I've got this, do you want me to fill an order or not? They didn't really have anything. So it really is a high turnover. But my point is, you get on the phone, you make 30 or 50 or 100 calls a day, and they all say no. How did you, I mean, because I love it. You hear not now. If as an actor, I had heard not now instead of no, it would have made a huge difference for me in terms of how I felt about my own self and my esteem, because I'd go, they're not saying no to me. They're just saying it's not right at this moment. So how do you come to that? How would you advise somebody to develop that mindset of no is, a reframe, or no is not now? Where they can literally kind of sink their teeth into it and move forward. Like you said, I don't hear no, I hear not now.
Sure.
So how do we get there?
Yeah. So this I do want to just, to the backstory on a no means not now started when I was a kid, because I remember on a summer day I'd go ask my mom for an ice cream and she'd say no. I'm like, why not? She's like, you're going to ruin your appetite. You're going to go swimming. You're going to get a cramp, like I get all these excuses. You had one earlier, I'm like, but it's a hot day. And so I just knew if I did a chore or two, or I helped my mom on a project and I'm like, Mom, can I have an ice cream? She's like, honey, you've been so great. Take 2. So I just learned at an early age that if I just, found the path to do whatever, it sort of would take to convert that no into a yes, that led to ice cream. So play forward into business, if I had $1, another situation, if I had $1 for every no I heard, starting a business or getting out there and talking to investors or, potential mentors or advisors, even potential customers, getting a lot of no's. Oh, you're too early, you're too this, you're too, all the excuses. I would have quit a long time ago. But I use that same, sort of theory of the ice cream theory of a no means not now. And I would literally, ask the question. So, can I just ask why you said no? My own, Alec Stern research, it's usually the third reason. If you get them talking and say, well, they'll say, well, I don't think there's a fit here. I'm like, but your background, is in software, and your background is in technology, or your background's helping small business. What is it about what we're doing that you don't see that fit? Well, you're too early, and eventually the third thing they say, I find, is really the reason that someone has said no. But I would just say, I understand and respect the no, but I wonder if, is it, as I mentioned earlier, like, is there a way that would you be open to staying in touch and let me update you periodically? What frequency and what method of communication, what would work for you? Would you want to meet maybe once a month, or maybe I just send a sort of an update email, or what works? And they give you a green light to do it, and then frequency and method. And so I would spend that time and be really diligent about doing those updates and providing them that information that would give them the green light to want to hear more. And then, and in many instances, it led to folks getting more involved in the business, whether it be from an investment perspective, in some cases joining the company. I had some folks I thought would be a great fit who just say, I don't do startups and it's too early. But I'd gotten them to join, after staying in touch and sharing some of our progress and what have you. Investors, mentors, advisors, all kinds of different folks, including customers, who said, yeah, I'm going to wait. I'll wait. And as opposed to them really seeing the value of what we're doing and getting in on the ground floor to help influence it. You could provide, with your background and experience as a small business, you could provide invaluable feedback. And in exchange, we want, to help you succeed with the goals you mentioned of, wanting to stay top of mind and engage with your current customers and get more revenue and get more customers, et cetera. And so, you can frame that conversation and then set up, the sort of that path to communicate. And that's the key thing for really focusing on the no, meaning not now. And then the only other thing I would say around that is, we oftentimes, when we get to the part about speaking, when we're going to tell them about what we're working on and so forth, we often want to spray and pray. I'm just going to keep talking and pray you heard something that interests you. And that doesn't fly. You got to tease them with small bits, and then get buy-in to share more, lead the witness, if you will, as they say on TV. But, just spend a little bit of extra time there.
That is awesome. I mean, it's kind of like leaving breadcrumbs for the birds. If you leave too big of a gap between breadcrumbs, the birds will go in different directions. But if you keep enough that keep their interest or keep them attracted, they will continue to follow the path to the ice cream.
Exactly. The ice cream theory.
The ice cream theory. I love it. Alec Stern ice cream theory. Well, it is sometimes just the idea that no is just a convenient answer. I mean, we all grew up, you said your mom said say no for a number of different reasons, or I say no because it's just no. And then I think about it and go, well, maybe, but the first answer is just no. And it might be because we've heard it so many times in our life that we are conditioned, many of us, to say no right off the bat without even entertaining what's being said. We just feel like we're being requested something. And so maybe what you demonstrated, though, is really elegant because it demonstrates paying attention and listening. And I like that you earlier you said get a green light. When you because too many people also pitch, but they over pitch. They just go, here's, in the film business, for example, people say, I have a screenplay, and they just push it at you. And I don't know anybody who's at a party or in an outside, at an event that wants to be carrying around an armload of screenplays.
Right.
But people don't think, is there appropriate channel that I could send this to your office, or might I, could I, what would be the way for me to make contact with you if you were interested? So I love the way that you present that. And of course you're the master at it. So it makes perfect sense that you do that. So thank you for that. Going back a bit to the urban innovation, is there a way, if people want to help you or champion you or be involved in some form in their community or the communities that you are serving, is there a way that they can let you know that?
Yeah. So I mean, certainly they can. I think the big thing is, as I've traveled around speaking, I often will get into the community a bit, and I like to walk on Main Street, and I like to just get a feel for folks, go in and introduce. And it's fun to go in and ask them what are they doing about their marketing, and like I've just walked in and there's nowhere for me to subscribe or sign in to receive something from you. Do you send out a newsletter? Do you this? Do you that? So, I just like to have some fun with it. And of course, they're always excited when they, when I'll say, you may be using one of our products. If you're doing email marketing, who do you use? And like Constant Contact. I said, I'm a co-founder of Constant Contact. And I'm like, no way. But my favorite is where they're like, well, I'm literally working on my campaign. Can you give me feedback? So I'm sitting in front of their computer, and then looking at their, giving them feedback. And most people just need the confidence to hit send on stuff. And oftentimes, we would get calls in, they could call anytime for, with support. And it was always just to get like, is it good enough? And, and get the confidence to hit send, or, have a simple question as opposed to something, that's stopping them from doing something. But the, everyone can just go look up and see what accelerators, what co-working spaces, what boot camps or other things in their community, what's being done, with innovation or helping the local businesses and startups. And oftentimes there's Main Streets programs and other ones where the economic development organization within a city usually has programs to help. There's SCORE and the SBDC programs and the SBA and all kinds of things that are working that have tools and resources available to help, and people can participate where they can volunteer and work with those programs or work with the small businesses directly. And I think the opportunities are there for everyone to be able to just share with others what they know best, because everyone needs help in every area.
Wow. Well, it's such a great way of giving, to be able to, assist somebody else, especially, I mean, sometimes we think in terms of giving and there are many ways to give, but the idea that you can give in business and you can give people starts, and uplift people who really want to be in business for themselves or create a business, and to think that you might be a person who helped some young man or woman or some group of people, young people or even old people for that matter, be able to fulfill a dream. I just think that's really truly amazing. It's a wonderful way to give back. So with that said, let's turn to something, because you're not just an entrepreneur, an investor, and a business guy. You also have a more musical side to yourself.
What gave that away? These?
Okay.
Yeah, no, well, at 8 years old, we used to go to flea markets and, antiquing on the weekends for fun. And I think some of my innovation, I honestly thank for those experiences, because I would go out and go into like the booths of, vendors with showing their wares, and I'd see something I'd never seen before, and I'd ask them about it. And, we'd go to some of the same places. So I got to know a lot of the dealers, and they would bring things that would come into their stores and say, "Hey, Alec, I brought something in, to show you this week." And I'd see something cool and new and different. And what is it, and how does it work, and why did someone use it, and what did they use before this? And, and like, I was just always, inquisitive about stuff. And, I was 8 years old, and I walked into one of the booths of one of the vendors dealers that I had known for months, just having gone to this particular flea market many times. And there was a antique Ludwig drum set sitting there, and I was like, wow. And now at 8 years old, I started beating the garbage can lids until I dented them to my father's, he just hated just kept trying to stop me from doing that. And then I moved on to pots and pans in the kitchen. And every time I'd pull them all out of the cabinet, he would leave the house, literally, get in the car and go somewhere. But I saw that drum set and I loved it. And I was just like, wow, this is the coolest thing. And there was an antique drum stool, wooden stool with the clawed ball legs, and a piano stool that you'd spin and go up and down. And I was just enamored with it. And anyway, my parents came walking by, and they saw me looking at the drum set. And I looked at them. I looked at the set. I looked at them. And then I could overhear a conversation to something to the effect of my dad saying, "Over my dead body," and my mom saying, "Don't squelch his creativity." And so 3 months later was my birthday, or 3 or 4 months later. And so, guess who got it? And I got a antique Ludwig drum set for his birthday. Wow. So mom won and I won. But at 8 years old, I started, and so my dad hated, all of this. And so I would turn music. I had a stereo in the room. I took over a bedroom that was a guest room, and put the drum set in there, put a stereo in, and I cranked the music, and I would just play to the music. So I learned to play by ear, ultimately went on and took lessons. I have since gone back and taken lessons. I have a lot of friends that are professional musicians that I've just when I came out of college and moved to Boston, I met several folks in the music industry, jammed with some just casually. And I've been fortunate to get up on stages. I set a couple of bucket list things, one of which was I wanted to jump up the House of Blues in Boston, which is the first House of Blues was in Boston, and was a small blue house in Cambridge and Harvard Square near Harvard University. But now there's a much larger venue that they built out not too far from where I live. And so I was like, I want to play on the stage of House of Blues in Boston. And 2 times within 6 weeks, I jumped up with 2 different bands, play a few songs. And so I mean, it fuels me in so many ways. It's a release. It's fun. And one of my favorites was Toby Keith has his own, I Love This Bar venue in Vegas. And I knew the house band. I got to know his house band. And so I went in to see them, and they pulled me up on stage. And then 2 months later, I'm in Reno, Nevada, speaking at a conference, and they happen to be performing. They're from Reno, and they're performing in a casino in Reno, which is literally like the next casino from where I was staying. And so I went over to see them and jumped up and played. So twice, I played with the band twice, and I have an open invite wherever they are playing. They're an amazing band called Left of Center, CENTRE, and an incredible band. And they're just very gracious to invite me up, and I have an open invite to play anytime.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's so cool. Do you think, I mean, I'm not a drummer. I've never drummed, but I know that you have to have your left foot do one thing and your right foot do another thing. And you might be doing, different things with your hands. And, So you've got to keep different tempo or beats with different parts of your body, essentially. You think that in any way, shape, or form has contributed to all of the way you juggle things in business as well? I mean,
that's a great analogy. I think it does, honestly. It's one of these, where you're rubbing and tapping, rubbing your stomach and tapping at the same time. I've taught many people taught them how to drum. And it does take, if you're multitasking, like for me, I think of multitasking, where you're doing, hands are doing something different than your feet and at different timings and so on. So yeah, it's a great analogy. I think, it does play into, I also juggle, so I, the other analogy would be juggling. You're just juggling so much, spinning plates, which I don't do because I broke too many as a kid. But and my dad wanted me to use paper plates, which you can't spin. I'm like, this is right. Fun. He's like, well, we're running out of dishes. Stop trying to put it on the top of. I was trying to put it on the top of a broom handle.
Wow. Well, and I love the juggling analogy as well. I mean, because I teach juggling in workshops and different things when we do them, and because it is a way of helping people coordinate, a lot of different principles and learn a lot of different principles. I mean, you're going to drop balls if you're going to juggle. It's just going to be part of it. So get over it. Kind of like getting over the no, and turning it into a not now. It's just going to be there. So, but with the music as well. There's also the timing. I mean, there's a sense of timing or a sense of rhythm that you might have that is innate when you're dealing with people or when you're, in the heat of innovating things that probably contributes in some fashion to what you do as well.
Yeah. There's no question. I think, multitasking, all these things relate to sort of multitasking, and when you're starting a business, you got to wear a lot of hats. But I do want to sort of emphasize something I said earlier, which is staying in your lane. So when you think about like what you're good at, if you stop what you're good at and do something else, there's an opportunity cost. There's the cost of taking time to learn something new, do it, probably not do it as well as someone who knows it well. It's got to take you longer, right? So let's just say, for example, we got to build a website. Well, I'll do it. I'll learn the website tool. I will, I'll build the website. It's going to be a 1.0. And let's just say it's going to take me 20 hours to do that. Now, if I had those same 20 hours and I focused on what I'm good at and stayed in my lane, which was, business development and partnerships and all this other stuff. If I took 20 hours, could I double down and do something 2, 3, 4 times greater than anything I could have done with that website? Of course. But if you think about it, if your time's worth $100 an hour and you spent $2,000 building the website, you could take that same time, maximize it in your lane. Could you afford the $2,000 to have someone who's expert in this build it in half the time and much better and not have to redo it when it's done? Of course. And it's not going to take 20 hours. It might take them 5 or 10 because they're expert in it. And they're going to make sure, so you get it faster and you get it better. And so there's an opportunity cost when you don't stay in your lane and do something. So as much as multitasking, I think of all the things that are in my lane, I want to stay in those and not necessarily work on things outside my lane. And then you bring in others, fractional marketing people, fractional web developer, or, interns or a VA or, somebody who can help you there long before you even hired somebody, part-time or full-time.
That makes just absolutely perfect sense. I mean, and I think when people hear that and they realize that to develop the talents that you innately enjoy and love and continue to do, and it's kind of I've always said I'm a one-trick pony. I know certain things and I do those and I can do those well, but I don't want to bang my head against all 4 walls, including the ceiling. Well, I guess all 6, including the ceiling and the floor, So yeah, no, that's very sage advice. I really do appreciate that, and I love the fact I did have somebody develop a website for me one time. The person who was supposed to do it didn't. They said I will do it for them, And that was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made, because the person had to learn to do everything, for the first time. And so what was moving along at a certain pace just went, whoa, it was almost as though they put the brakes on. So again, just great value in the lessons that you share, and the suggestions and advice that you've given today. Just to close this out, because I want to be sensitive to your time. I'd love to do this again, Alec.
Yeah, sure.
And I know we'll see each other in other venues as well, and chat. But in closing, what are you doing now, or anything that you want to share that is near and dear to your heart, in addition to the urban innovation or businesses that you're or anything? I mean,
sure. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm working on several things that I'm really excited about. One is basically taking e-commerce websites and bringing them to life and to live. So imagine if you had QVC or HSN that was just hanging off of your e-commerce storefront, if you will, where you could be doing live shopping, live selling, and engaging with your audience. So we've built a platform, Fori, F-O-R-I, Fori.live. And Fori stands for Future of Online Retail Influence. So we're going to be launching that in the coming months for basically, bringing life to that e-commerce storefront that's fairly static and waits for people to come. You might drive them there, but they're going to do their own thing. But you can engage with them yourself, or an influencer. Somebody could be engaging with selling experiences and trunk shows and offering new items and teaching. You could be cooking something, and like you see on TV or HSN or QVC or other platforms like it. But now it's tied to your e-commerce experience. So Fori.live is one I'm really excited, and we've got an amazing team, and we spent a lot of time to soon launch the best platform out there, and it's a newer concept here in the States, and certainly one that will just really help take businesses to the next level, and especially small businesses, again, that small and large, but small that don't necessarily have the tools and resources to engage as much as they should or could. And so we're going to make that easy. So Fori is one thing. And the second, I'm really involved with Web 3.0, and from tokens to NFTs to the metaverse. And so I was involved with a team, Joke, J-O-K-E, Joke.community, and involved with the team where we launched the first comedy club, the first comedy show, the first stand-up comedy mic night in the metaverse, where people teaming with MetaQuest, the division of Facebook and Oculus, and some other folks to which they put out press releases to have the first experience of its kind in the metaverse. So we're excited, having done that with comedy, and now we're building out 100 comedy clubs available, so people can come in and actually experience, their experience comedy, streamed into the metaverse. And so we're 100 clubs being built as we speak, and excited about that. And just think of the potential beyond that. So with music and with, just speaking and all opportunities to get and engage with the audiences in a different way, which can extend the engagement that people do today in what would be Web 2.0, what we know today, but bridging over to 3.0 with some experiences that people will be able to get in this new multiverse, if you will.
God, that's incredible. Many prominent, but also not prominent comedians are friends of mine. Because my background and my sister's become a stand-up comedian, and so she does shows all the time. And with COVID, everybody was doing Zoom shows. With the idea that they couldn't be in clubs, they had to do stuff live. And I actually enjoyed I watched late night television really for the first time when everybody left the studios, and had the three main people, I guess Seth, Jimmy, and Steven, all broadcast from their home without a live audience for jokes or any of that. Because I thought that this was just absolutely brilliant to have to deliver and try and assess your timing and your performance when you had no audience,
Right.
and so to open this up and to open up, like you said, clubs and to bridge the comedy online, and then to take that into other, I just think it's exciting. And I know so many people are going to be really excited or thrilled to hear this if they haven't heard it already. So that's really cool.
Yeah, if folks go to the Infiniverse, Infiniverse, and they look at, they'll see multiverse, but joke community. There's right in Grand Central of that New York City sized virtual city, if you will. They'll see joke community, and you walk into the comedy club and you go downstairs into the basement, and there's and it will be streaming in from comedians and comedy clubs and other forums as another way. Like, if you can't go to New York and catch that comedy show from your favorite comedian, imagine if it was streamed into the Infiniverse or multiverse, if you will, where you could see it from anywhere.
That's incredible. That really is cool. That really and very innovative. That's awesome.
Yeah. So joke community for folks. It has a token associated with it. There's also NFTs, and the key thing here with as Bitcoin and the coins themselves as a currency, with a token, there's a utility or a value. So imagine if you're buying the token, or you're buying the NFT, and you have a lifetime golden ticket to any of the comedy shows in the Infiniverse because you have the NFT. So we're putting a lot of value. That's just one example. Just imagine. It has the unique art and animation and all that. Imagine if you got something personalized on an NFT from a comedian, or you could go to all these shows and all kinds of other stuff sort of gets thrown in as value. So I think moving it beyond buying a virtual yacht that you'll never be on, or buy an apartment you'll never set foot in. I think there's obviously value in some of those things with when you add an experience to them, right? So here's an opportunity for that experience, and just imagine if there was, all other aspects of what we do today or see today, where if you just didn't get a chance to be there, you could still experience it.
Wow, that's so very cool. In terms of future conversations, so this would be a really ripe area to talk about. A lot of people don't understand Bitcoin or for that matter NFTs, and I just read some article the other day about somebody who bought something for like $2 or $4 million and it's not worth anything or whatever. I mean, I don't get that all myself. So,
but it's no different than like one man's what's the common for one man's junk and is another man's treasure, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
If someone offers up something and someone else sees value in it, I just like Jack Dorsey, founder of Twitter's first tweet, was offered for millions, the first tweet ever on Twitter. So, someone say, well, some influencer or, big fan or user, on the platform every day might see great value in that.
Well, and going back to what you said earlier, maybe not now. Maybe the person says, I bought this, and people go, well, I don't want that, but somebody will. The idea being that, because timing can be everything. I suspect. You know what I mean? It's just.
Yeah, and there's some hype. I think there's been a lot of hype, and so people were buying, just art, or they're buying the boats, or they're buying the condos, and I'm not poo-pooing any of it because, in full disclosure, I own some property, in the metaverse, and so some will go and furnish it, and have folks over and you're hanging out, so it gives you a place to go instead of just walking around, and bumping into people. You could have people in, or you could be businesses could be showing, like a demo of their offerings, or invite people in to learn more. And so I've seen experiential value starting to come into play. That's when it was for me. I'm more on the token side because I want to see value, and so it's just been fun to be part of that and see being the first business to have that experience, and the first comedy club ever. And it's been fun. It's been fun to be part of an amazing team. The Joke Doc community team is the best of the best.
So I love it. I think it's thrilling. I think it's thrilling. And well, let's. I appreciate that, and I have loved the time that we got to spend together here. Let me say this, and I'm going to say it in a very kind of guarded way. It's a secret. Alec got some good news, to which we say congratulations. It won't be made known here, but in a month or two, Alec, you can share your good news. But I want to say congratulations. I think that is truly awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to sharing it once they. There's a couple of exciting things that haven't gone public yet that I'm and I just got the chills, because these are those things that you don't, you maybe give it a thought, but never expect that it could happen to you or for you or, with you. And so I'm excited to share some additional things soon. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is so beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I will say, so long for now, and I'll see you in just about a minute or two after I close out the show. Okay.
Yeah. Look forward to it. And thank you and your team. You did an amazing job setting this all up and being patient with me being a few minutes late. But I also want to thank the audience, for sticking it out either now or as they watch the replay, and certainly just reach out. If there's any way that I can help, or if they need someone to speak on a stage or share this message to an audience, I'm always open. So,
Alex, you're beautiful. Thank you so much, Alec. And I will be talking to you in just a second.
All right. Sounds great.
I appreciate it so very kindly, Alec.
Cheers.
Well, thank you everybody for staying tuned, and thank you for sharing and liking and spreading the word about the show. And I sure hope you'll continue to do that and leave comments if you're watching the replay. And if you're watching the replay, also share the show. And with that, I'm going to tell you about what I'm doing here in just a second, as soon as I can figure it out. Because I do this every show, and I want you to know that, I'm so proud of this, and I'm so happy to be able to tell you about Life on Your Terms. The book, if you get it from Amazon, hardcover or softback, I'm giving to you as a bonus a $497 training called The Mastery Loop. And it's about mastering your thoughts, it's your feelings, your behaviors, and your skill sets. And so you get the book from Amazon. Go and take that to rexsikes.com/book. I don't see they haven't been running the banner here, but we'll find that for you. And there it is. They got that. So rexsikes.com/book. Get the book from Amazon, or if you've already gotten the book, because I know lots of people got the book, but they don't know about the training that it's giving. It's an online training, and you're going to love it, because it's about how we learn with our whole brain and how we incorporate things and go from being a novice to actually learning and mastering what it is that we want to do. And of course, mastery is a lifelong process, but that doesn't mean that you have to wait an entire lifetime to get good at something. So go and get Life on Your Terms, and be sure you get the Mastery Loop training from rexsikes.com/books. Just go and follow the instructions there at that website. While you're there, check out the Attitude Activator and some of the other incredible things that are available for you. That said, I am so pleased with the team. Schmiko has done Schmiko Cole and team has done just a marvelous job, running the show backstage and making things happen. I want to thank Alec for being here. Alec Stern is just I loved him, and I know that you loved him. So thank you for having Alec with. Thank you, Alec, for being here, and then thank you to the Los Angeles Tribune for making all things Rex possible, and thank you to the audience for being here and watching and sharing and liking and spreading the word. So that I always close every show with this: that if you think of something as a problem, well, then it's a problem. But if you think of something as a blessing, then it's a blessing. So consider everything a blessing and celebrate everything. I'll see you the next time. Next Thursday, I've got an incredible guest. You're going to want to stay tuned for him next time. All right.